When I first got into Stephen King, I had absolutely no idea that there were Dark Tower comics as well as all of the novels. I previously covered a Dark Tower reading order for the books and a bunch of the books that tie in, but today I want to talk about the comic book reading order. I'm Deanna Chapman, and let's dive in. First, I want to cover that this has three big sections to it. The first one is Beginnings, the second one is The Gunslinger, and the third one you might be a little familiar with because it has the same title as one of the books, and it's The Drawing of the Three. So those are the order that the big overarching stories come in, but within those you have multiple comic book trades that contain about 5 issues apiece, sometimes more, sometimes less. So we are going to start with Beginnings. The first comic book in Beginnings is The Gunslinger Born. Some of these stories actually take place outside of the events of the books, and I should note that Robin Firth was heavily involved in these comics, and she was once a research assistant for Stephen King who knew a ton about the Dark Tower series in general, but these comics really do a nice job of expanding on this Dark Tower universe. From there, you have The Long Road Home, and then you have Treachery, which tends to include The Sorcerer, which is just a one-shot, so I highly recommend reading Treachery and The Sorcerer together if you have them separately. It's very, very hard to find individual physical issues at this point, but I know a company called Gallery 13 has been doing hardcover reprints and box sets, so that kind of makes it a little easier to find a bunch of these. Then you have Fall of Gilead and Battle of Jericho Hill. Those two round out this Beginnings storyline. So you have a lot to consume with each of these story arcs. I personally haven't made it past this first one just yet. I'm working my way through these. And on that note, I want to pause here real quick and let you know about my Stephen King podcast, Chat Cemetery, where I am covering all the books, TV, and movie adaptations chronologically, and then on my Patreon, I am covering all of these comics and working my way through those, mostly chronologically as well. I'm also throwing in the Stan comics and some others that King has done or have been adapted from King works. But back to the reading order, we now have the Gunslinger story arc, and this one starts off with The Journey Begins. Then you have The Little Sisters of Eloria, which you may recognize from some of the short stories that have taken place in the Dark Tower universe. Next up, we have The Battle of Tull, The Way Station, and The Man in Black. And after The Man in Black, you have Shimi's Tale, Evil Ground, and So Fell Lord Perth. Last but not least, we have The Drawing of the Three storyline, which kicks off with The Prisoner. Then we have House of Cards, which I imagine is not like the Netflix show at all, and Lady of Shadows. This story arc closes out with Bitter Medicine and The Sailor, which is where these Dark Tower comics come to an end. Like I said, I haven't read all the way through them, but this is the reading order I am using and going through just for the Patreon content for my podcast, and I really do think that there is a lot of great information added to the Dark Tower universe through these comics, and I have really, really enjoyed what I've read so far, so I'm very excited to go through all of these. And I know there are other Stephen King comics, like I mentioned. There's also The Stand, but as far as the Dark Tower goes, this is the easiest way to read them, just by getting the trades, getting those box sets, even if you can afford to do so. But if you are looking for single issues or original printings, those are going to be a little harder to find. I was checking eBay and I was like, oh, this is going to get expensive quick, isn't it? So I've kind of been looking more at the new printings, and they have digital copies on Kindle, but not Comixology. It's a little weird, but I opted to go for digital because it was just better for, well, one, for all of these bookshelves behind me that are completely full pretty much. So I didn't need to add a bunch of Dark Tower comics to the shelves. And that is all I have for you today. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.